Part 30. I am immortal and I raise a divine beast in another world. Author, Chen Wunian. Chapter 291. Done. Chen Hao looked at Lan. Yes, Lan responded, but it's a pity that it's only a first-level gem core. The first-level gem core is equivalent to the bronze core of the bronze mantis, which is useless. Chen Hao walked to the body of the black gem man, he squatted down, stretched out his hand, and placed it on the body of the black gem. Change. The body of the black gem man turned into a card. The card appeared in front of Chen Hao. First level gem black gem. Taming degree, 0. Chen Hao's eyes were puzzled. The information displayed on the card did not show health. No health, that is, this black gem man is healthy? No, if I guessed correctly, Ian's characteristic is mental destruction. It can also be said that although Lan did not move just now, it is obvious that Lan used mental attack methods. The black gem's mind has been destroyed, but the body function is still normal, so the health is not displayed on the card. Chen Hao put the black gem card into the book, and then looked at Xiaoying. Let's go, the next one. Xiaoying nodded slightly. The three continued to walk towards the next target. Chen Hao looked at Lan beside him. The attack you used on it just now was a mental attack, right? Lan hummed, yes. She looked at Chen Hao and smiled, how is it? Awesome, right? Chen Hao nodded slightly, it looks pretty strong. Lan smiled, of course, my characteristic is mental destruction. Although Bai can also do mental destruction, the power is much worse than mine. Huh, Chen Hao was stunned, he looked at Lan strangely, Bai, can also do it? Chen Hao remembered that he had seen Bai's data before. Bai has two characteristics, one is mental resistance and physical destruction. How, Bai can also do mental destruction? Lan was slightly startled, she looked at Chen Hao, of course, after reaching the second level, everyone will use mental destruction. It's just a matter of strength. Speaking of this, Lan seemed to realize something, she looked at Chen Hao, isn't it like this in your world? Chen Hao smiled, in our world, there are also mental attack methods, but they are not the same as yours. After hearing what Lan said, Chen Hao suddenly realized something. He had always thought that a second-level gem would only have the attributes in its characteristics. Now Chen Hao realized that he was wrong, it was not that they only had the attributes in the characteristics, but after reaching the second level, they will have all 8 attributes, but only the attributes in the characteristics are their most powerful attributes. So, Chen Hao looked at Xiaoying, can you also use mental attacks? Xiaoying's characteristic is mental resistance. As a soaring evolution, can it? Xiaoying nodded slightly, yes. Sure enough. After the soaring evolution, the beast will open these 8 unique attributes. While Chen Hao was thinking, he noticed that Xiaoying had stopped. Chen Hao looked forward. In front of him, 100 meters away, there was another black gem man walking aimlessly. When Lan saw this black gem man, her pupils condensed slightly, and her expression became solemn, level 3 black demon. Level 3, that is the same level as Lan. Let's go. Lan looked at Chen Hao, her expression solemn, our goal is to collect level 2 gems. Let's go before it finds us. With that, Lan turned around and walked back. That guy was at the same level as Lan, but Lan obviously didn't want to fight with level 3 gems. Suddenly, Chen Hao felt a little movement. He turned his head and found that the black gem man was running towards the side. Chen Hao frowned, it seems that it doesn't intend to let us leave like this. When Lan heard Chen Hao's voice, her face suddenly changed, and she subconsciously looked back. She could see the black gem man rushing towards her with a black long knife, and her face changed drastically, this damn thing. She raised her hand to the black gem man, die. Accompanying Ian's movements, Chen Hao could see the black gem man's running body pause slightly, and his body fell to the ground. Bang! Seeing this, Chen Hao stretched his eyebrows and looked at Lan behind him. Isn't this very easy? At a glance, Chen Hao found that Ian's blue diamond-like eyes were trembling slightly, and her face was full of uneasiness and suspicion. What bad luck, Lan couldn't help but speak. Bad luck? Wasn't the black gem already hit? Thinking about it, Chen Hao followed Ian's line of sight and looked at the black gem again, only to see that the black gem was slowly climbing up. This guy has the characteristic of mental regeneration. I am defeated. Ian's pupils trembled. I wanted to bring you here, try my luck, get a second level gem core and leave. I didn't expect that I was so unlucky. I met a third level guy with mental regeneration after the second one. She walked in front of Chen Hao and Xiaoying, raised her hand, and a blue longsword appeared in her hand. She said seriously, I will hold it, you go first. What does it mean? Chen Hao was a little confused. Why does this guy have a tone of sacrificing himself? As soon as Lan finished speaking, the black gem man had recovered. It locked its sights on Lan, who was standing in the front, and it pounced on Lan again. Lan raised his hand and used mental attack again. This time, the black gem man paused slightly, but did not even fall down, and continued to approach Lan. Lan ran to the right, and while running, he turned back and said to Chen Hao, run. Lan sped up, and the black gem man chased after him. From Ian's actions, it was obvious that he wanted to lead the black gem man away and give Chen Hao a chance to escape. However, the black gem man was faster than Lan. After a while, he caught up with Lan. The black gem man held the knife with one hand, and swung the black long knife towards Ian's face. Lan held the hilt with both hands and swung the knife to meet it. Bang! Accompanied by a crisp sound. The long knife in Ian's hand was shaken and flew out. The long knife rotated in the air and quickly fell to the ground. Lan retreated 3 meters with the force. After landing, she looked at the black gem man, but the black gem man rushed up again. Ian's pupils trembled, and she silently said in her heart, it's so unlucky, I'm done. This scene was something Chen Hao never expected. Before, Lan used mental attacks to deal with first-level gems, and it was so easy. But now, when facing a restrained enemy of the same level, she was so vulnerable. Is this restraint? At this moment, Chen Hao understood. He knew why Lan chose to run away when she saw this third-level black gem. She was afraid of something happening, but it still happened. Transform. Suddenly, a rope appeared and tied up the black gem man. The black gem man's hands, feet, and body were tied up in an instant and could not move. Seeing this scene, Lan was slightly startled, and her eyes were full of doubts. Death Realm. Suddenly, a voice sounded. I am immortal and I raise a divine beast in another world. Author, Chen Wunian. Chapter 292. Under the earth, a magic circle appeared. The magic circle expanded to a kilometer in an instant, projecting a kilometer-long hemispherical translucent barrier. Within this barrier, countless black mist appeared. Bang, accompanied by a muffled sound. The black gem man broke the rope. Once the rope was broken, its eyes fell on Lan again. Ian's pupils were trembling, filled with fear. The black gem man was about to take action when suddenly, Lan could see a slender figure appearing in the black mist behind the black gem man. It was Xiaoying. At this time, Xiaoying was wearing a black robe and a hat. Her little face was hidden in the hat. Lan could see that Xiaoying's red eyes showed no emotion at all. Suddenly, the small shadow moved, and it slowly raised its white hand, and its hand fell on the back of the black gem man's neck. Bang! Accompanied by a shattering sound. The black jewel man's neck snapped. Bang! The black jewel man's body fell to the ground with a muffled sound. The realm of death disappears. The black mist dispersed, and the black robe surrounding Xiaoying also dissipated. Xiaoying's eyes fell on Lan, and she saw Ian's mouth slightly opened, looking at Xiaoying in astonishment. "Are you okay?" Suddenly, a voice came. Hearing this voice, Lan came back to her senses and looked at Chen Hao. Chen Hao looked at Lan with questioning eyes. Lan blinked, she looked away, looked at Xiaoying, and then at the body on the ground. Lan looked at Chen Hao. "I suspect that you were playing a trick on me when you asked me to bring you here." "Huh?" Chen Hao looked confused. Lan showed a playful smile. "If you are not playing with me, then you already have the strength to kill the third-order black demon. Why do you want it from me?" "It turns out to be this." Chen Hao smiled helplessly and crossed his arms across his chest. "To be honest, I didn't expect Xiaoying to be so strong. It was yesterday that I wanted to use Ian's power to obtain the second-level gem. Yesterday, Xiaoying had not succeeded in ascending and evolving. It's just that after Xiaoying has successfully ascended and evolved, he can't just tell Lan to get out. At the same time, Ian's existence can also let him know more about the world. Therefore, for Chen Hao, having Lan by his side is a thing that is beneficial to him. However, Xiaoying was able to defeat the third-level black gem after using the death domain, which he did not expect. Well, it seems that Xiaoying's attacks tend to be physical attacks. Lan crossed her arms and said, "This guy's characteristic is mental resistance, which just restrains me, and its own physical defense is the weakest in the third level." Speaking of this, Lan paused, looked at Xiaoying, and said with a smile, "In other words, you just restrained it?" Xiaoying nodded slightly. "I am also surprised that it is so vulnerable." Lan smiled and said, "The power you just showed can probably be compared with Bai. As it happens, if you cooperate with me, when we encounter a black gem that is alone, as long as it is not the fourth level, we can basically kill it instantly." "It's perfect," Lan chuckled. Hearing this, Chen Hao's heart moved. "Is this why you and Bai formed a two-person team?" Lan was startled, then she looked at Chen Hao. "Well, yes, because my characteristics are physical resistance and mental destruction, so I am more afraid of guys with mental regeneration. And Bai has the ability of physical destruction, and blood can overcome the characteristics of mental regeneration. Guy. Our combination was thought up by our eldest sister." Speaking of this, Lan smiled, "My eldest sister is very smart, but she has a bad temper. No wonder the diamond people I met were all a two-person team, and it turned out to be to make up for each other's shortcomings. So smart. However, in fact, through exercise or something, I can also improve my other attributes. It's just that I personally have no interest in fighting. Basically, I deal with enemies in vain." Lan chuckled, "So, in addition to my own characteristics, except for that, the other attributes are pretty rubbish." Chen Hao blinked. "Is this why you can't catch a single move against this black devil?" Lan was stunned and rolled her eyes. "People say you are rubbish, can't you give them some face?" This sentence made Chen Hao suddenly feel uncomfortable. Although Lan looks like a woman, she is actually genderless. But, it's okay, at least it's not as scary as Erlang's muscles, shouting people. "Master," a voice came. Chen Hao came back to his senses, looked at Xiaoying, and found that Xiaoying had an extra card in his hand. It handed the card to Chen Hao. Chen Hao took it and looked at it. Third level gem, a third level black gemstone. Type, material. Features, spiritual regeneration. Just now Xiaoying saw that he was talking to Lan, and he habitually took Beiyu out of the third level black gem man. The third level jade is just for Xiaoying. But Chen Hao looked at Xiaoying. After Xiaoying ascended and evolved, could he continue to use gems to improve his strength? I guess you have to ask AI this question. Now that you have obtained the third level gem core, do you want to continue to do it? Ian's voice came. Hearing this, Chen Hao looked at Lan and said with a smile, "Of course, the more, the merrier." Lan blinked and smiled. Well, as long as we don't encounter the 4th level, use Xiaoying's detection ability and only look for those who are missing. With Xiaoying and I's ability to cooperate, as long as we don't encounter the 4th level, we can do whatever we want. Hearing this, Chen Hao smiled. That's good. Chen Hao looked at Xiaoying. Continue to find the next target, remember to find the lone. Xiaoying nodded slightly. Xiaoying led the way in front, and Lan and Chen Hao continued to follow. The 3 of them wandered around this black gem island. It was noon. Chen Hao looked up at the sky, looking at the sun in the middle of the sky above, feeling the sunlight. Gurgle. Chen Hao's stomach made a gurgling sound. In fact, Chen Hao's body was made by the gods based on the model of ordinary people. He would feel hungry and sleepy, and his stomach would cry when it was empty. Of course, at present, it is an immortal body. He can do without eating, drinking, and sleeping, and he will not die. What's that sound? Lan pricked up her ears when she heard the strange sound, and she looked around. Xiaoying looked at Chen Hao. Master, are you hungry? Chen Hao came back to his senses, and he smiled. You have been exercising a lot these 2 days, and you have collected almost all the things. Let's stop here today and go back first. Hungry? What is hungry? Lan looked at Xiaoying with curiosity. Xiaoying was slightly startled, and it looked at Lan. The master's body is that of an ordinary person, so you need to eat? Eat? Lan didn't understand. Chen Hao looked at Lan. Ian's body was made of diamonds. It was similar to a monster and didn't need to eat. But, to be honest, it was a little different from the monster. It needed to sleep at night, but the monster didn't. Forget it, don't think too much. Chen Hao called Yinglong out. The 3 rode Yinglong and flew towards the base. Chen Hao sat on a chair. He flipped through the universal book and looked at the card slot where the diamond egg was placed before. I don't know if the diamond egg has hatched successfully after a day. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I am immortal and I raise a divine beast in another world. Author, Chen Wunian. Chapter 293. Incubation period diamond eggs. Hatchability, 23%. It's not hatched yet, okay. Chen Hao stretched his eyebrows and didn't care that much. Alien eggs sometimes hatch slowly, not to mention diamond eggs like this, which are obviously higher than alien eggs. According to the speed of hatching, it is estimated that it will take at least 2 or 3 days to fully hatch. Chen Hao sat on a chair, looking at the white clouds flying crazily to both sides in front of him, feeling the whistling sensation of the wind blowing past his ears. He crossed his arms across his chest and slowly closed his eyes. Lan took out a magnifying glass from somewhere and looked at Yinglong's horns carefully. The material is yellow, but it doesn't feel like black gemstones or black diamonds. What kind of material is this made of? Ian's face was filled with curiosity. She withdrew her gaze and looked towards Chen Hao. But he found that Chen Hao was closing his eyes to rest. Ian's eyes fell on Xiaoying. But he saw Xiaoying standing next to Chen Hao, and Xiaoying was looking at Chen Hao. Seeing this, Ian's heart moved, the corners of her mouth suddenly raised, and she walked to Xiaoying's side. Xiaoying noticed the movement coming from beside her, and she turned her face to look at Lan. Lan was smiling. She glanced at Chen Hao, then looked at Xiaoying, and asked with a smile, Xiaoying, are you in love with him? Xiaoying was slightly startled. Love? Lan rolled her eyes, then crossed her arms and said, don't say no, there's no point in hiding it. If you weren't in love with him, why would you keep staring at him? Hearing this, Xiaoying seemed to realize something. It looked at Lan and said, you misunderstood. The relationship between master and me is not what you imagined. Lan Yi was startled. No. Xiaoying withdrew his gaze and looked ahead, as if he was lost in memories. In the past, I was just a weak jackalope in the forest of monsters. I lived in fear every day, fearing that some powerful monsters would appear out of nowhere and eat me as food. During that time, there was only one thing left in life, and that was to live, and live one day at a time. Hearing this, Lan was slightly startled. Is it so miserable? Then you were even worse than us before. Xiaoying hummed. Later, I met the master. It was the master who provided me with food, trained me, and raised me to be as strong as I am now. If I weren't the master, I would probably be like most jackalopes in the Warcraft forest and become food to feed other Warcraft. It can be said that my life was given to me by the master, and everything I have now was also given by the master. Having said this, Xiaoying turned his face and looked at Lan. The relationship between me and my master is far more precious than the relationship you imagine. Xiaoying looked at Chen Hao, who was closing his eyes and concentrating. For me, the master is everything to me. Lan blinked her eyes and showed an apologetic smile. Sorry, it seems that I am a little superficial. Xiaoying looked away and looked at Lan. It's okay. As it spoke, it retracted its gaze and looked forward. Lan looked at Xiaoying's expressionless face, the corner of her mouth twitched, she shook her head helplessly, sat on Yinglong's head, and looked ahead. I thought Bai was cold enough, but I didn't expect that the sky is even colder than Bai, Lan muttered. Yinglong took Chen Hao and 3 others to the main island where the Diamond Man lived. 3 people landed on the island. Chen Hao transformed Yinglong back into his card form. Then, can you take me to your world now? Lan said with a smile. Hearing this, Chen Hao looked at Lan and smiled. Of course, but before that, do you have something to do? Lan was slightly startled and blinked. Thing? What's the matter? Suddenly, Lan seemed to have thought of something, and she smiled. Well, I really need to tell my companions, so as not to worry them too much. Then, you go with me. No. Chen Hao crossed his arms and said with a smile, I don't like staying with too many strangers. I will build a wooden house here and stay here for a while. After you finish those things, come here. Then I'll be fast, Lan said, and she kept running out. As she ran, she looked back. I'll be back in the evening. Chen Hao looked at Ian's figure, who quickly disappeared. Chen Hao murmured, this guy is really not afraid of death at all. How would a normal person dare to go to a strange place casually with others? Isn't she afraid that he has evil intentions towards her? In other words, her curiosity about the unknown is greater than her fear of death. Forget it, since I agreed to take her back, I'll take her back. Anyway, I have nothing to do now. Chen Hao opened the book, took out the wooden house card from the book, and waved his hand. A small cabin appeared above the snow. Chen Hao and Xiaoying entered the wooden house. Chen Hao sat at the wooden table, picked up the unlimited food card, and simply prepared some food for himself. While Chen Hao was eating lunch, he picked up the omnipotent book and looked through today's morning's loot. Second level gem, second level black gem. Type, Gemin. Features, spiritual regeneration. Taming, 0. This black gem man was captured by Chen Hao through the animal trapping rope. Gemin is actually similar to Pool's Eamon. Pool's Eamon can be armored, but can Gemin? Chen Hao wanted to give it a try. However, the tameness is 0, will this have any impact? AI, does armoring require tameness? If the tameness of the armor card is 0, will it affect the wearer? AI, armorization will dismantle the energy and body of the pulse beast and turn them into equipment. Equipment transformation has nothing to do with the tameness of the pulse beast being equipped. Seeing this, Chen Hao showed a satisfied smile. Just make sure. Change. Along with the sound, Chen Hao has an extra card in his hand. Civilian Silver Fox Man. Name, Tully. Gender, female. Taming degree, 100%. There are about 10 silver fox girls who chose to become Chen Hao slaves, and Talai is one of them. Change. The card switches to the equipment slot. When the card was switched to the equipment slot, the card glowed white, and a line of white light connected Talika and the Gem Beast card in Chen Hao's hands. Seeing this, Chen Hao's eyes lit up slightly and he smiled. The hand holding the second level gem card loosened. The second level gem card turned into white light and disappeared into Talika. Talika's card glowed white. The white light swallowed up the entire card. When the white light dispersed, Chen Hao looked at Talika's equipment column again. Upon seeing it, Chen Hao was slightly startled. There is an extra grid on the equipment column, and a diamond-shaped black gem appears in the grid. Chen Hao was slightly startled. Didn't the second level gem card turn into armor? Change. The card switches to the main face. Gene upgrade Silver Fox Man. Name, Tully. Gender, female. Features, spiritual regeneration. Description, ordinary silver foxes who have been genetically upgraded have second level gems as core energy, comprehensively improving their own genetic power to obtain abilities beyond the capabilities of ordinary life forms, and enough to cope with the environment of outer space. Seeing this, Chen Hao was startled. Isn't this description the same as Xiao Ying's ascension and evolution? I am immortal and I raise a divine beast in another world. Author, Chen Wunian. Chapter 294. This strength improvement is too simple, right? As long as you have the ability to turn highly intelligent beings into cards, and then grab a black gem with second level strength, through such a fusion, you can get a beast that is comparable to an ascended and evolved beast. This is too exaggerated. But, think about it carefully. It doesn't seem that simple. To turn a highly intelligent creature into a card, you must first have the strength of the main god stage, and secondly, you must capture a black gem man with second level strength. Obviously, you can't find one in the entire Valve continent. It can be done. It seems simple, but the difficulty lies in defeating the second level gem talent. I understand, whether it's armoring or genetic upgrade, it's actually the Pulse Beast and the Gem Beast. The whole thing is turned into equipment or something similar to the core, which is used by the wearer. So, the thing being used has whatever strength it originally had, and the person who gains its power can gain that strength. Tully is just a common girl in the Silver Fox clan, but now after fusion with the second level gem and genetic upgrade, she directly possesses the strength of the second level gem. Change. The card disappeared from Chen Hao's hand and turned into a figure that appeared in front of Chen Hao. This figure is Tully. The Tully in front of me was a little different from the Tully before. Silver foxes all have silver hair, ears, and tails. As for Tully in front of her, her original long silver white hair turned into ink-like black, and her ears and tail also turned black. The black hair reflects the sunlight and casts a colorful halo. Have the hair on the fox ears, and the hair on the tail all turned into black gemstone structures. Chen Hao looked at Talai's changes. Among the girls of the Silver Fox tribe, Talai is relatively small in stature. Compared with Xiaoying, she is even petite. She is estimated to be about 1.4 meters tall. Her figure is overall thin. She looks like a little girl of 13 or 14, maybe it is more appropriate to call her lowly. She was wearing a black dress decorated with black gems. Her eyes were closed when she was just summoned. She slowly opened them, revealing a pair of black gem-like eyes. She looked at Chen Hao, their eyes met, her eyes lit up slightly, and a smile appeared on her face. Master. Chen Hao nodded slightly and said with a smile, how do you feel now? When Talai heard this, she first looked at her clothes, then at her hands and body. She looked away, looked at Chen Hao and said with a smile, I feel very good, my body is much lighter than before. There are many magical things in my head, as if they are innate. This is the same as Yao. After Yao obtained the armor transformed into a silver bronze mantis, she automatically gained experience in using that armor. After Talai was genetically upgraded through the second level gem, she obviously also had the knowledge on how to use this power. Chen Hao thought. It seems that using this method can indeed directly improve the strength of highly intelligent life forms. Using second level gem beasts, highly intelligent life forms can gain second level power. If they use the third level, they can also obtain the power of the third level. The speed at which this kind of power increases is much faster than that of controlling beasts. Is this the benefit of highly intelligent life forms? If so, then the creator must be too partial. Boom. Suddenly, there was a muffled sound. Hearing this voice, Chen Hao's heart skipped a beat. He looked out the door subconsciously. There are people fighting 300 meters away from us, Xiao Ying's voice came. Hearing this, Chen Hao's heart moved. He stood up with a smile on his face. Let's go and take a look. Just in time, you can try Tully's strength. Xiao Ying led the way, and the three of them walked to the beach. I saw a black gem man fighting with a diamond man. When Chen Hao looked at the diamond man, his heart moved. An acquaintance. This diamond man is Su. However, Su was holding a long knife made of green diamonds at the moment. She looked a little embarrassed, and her eyes were fixed on the black gem man in front of her. The black gem man held a black gem sword in one hand and rushed towards Su with an expressionless face. While retreating, Su reluctantly touched the knife with the other party. Once the sword was touched, she used the force to retreat. She obviously didn't want to confront the other party head-on. Chen Hao took out the identification device. Second level gemstone green diamond. Type, Gemin. Features, physical regeneration. Second level gem black gem. Type, Gemin. Features, physical destruction, physical regeneration, mental regeneration. Seeing this, Chen Hao's pupils froze. 3 characteristics? No wonder green diamond batting is so difficult to fight. Master, do I want to go? Xiao Ying's voice came. Hearing this, Chen Hao shook his head and then looked at Talai. Talai noticed Chen Hao's eyes, and she looked at Chen Hao. Chen Hao said with a smile, I'll give you some more strength first, and then you can handle that guy later. How about that? Talai's eyes lit up, she nodded repeatedly, and said expectantly, Master, I have long wanted to kill everyone like Sister Yao. Silver Fox girls all have cheerful personalities, and Tully seems to be no exception. Chen Hao smiled, okay. Talai's body turned into a card, and the card was suspended in front of Chen Hao. Chen Hao opened the book and took out 2 cards. Second level gem black gem. Type, Gemin. Features, mental destruction. Second level gem black gem. Type, gem beast. Features, mental regeneration. Previously, I used mental resistance on Tally. Now with these 2, Tally is invincible in the mental attribute at the second level. Chen Hao merged these 2 gem cards into Tally's card. The name of Tally's card changed. 3rd generation Gene Silver Fox. Dun. Chen Hao waved his hand. The card flew out. Transform. Tally's figure appeared in front of Chen Hao. Chen Hao was slightly startled when he saw Tally's posture at this moment. Master Tally opened her eyes, she looked at Chen Hao with a smile on her face. Chen Hao nodded slightly, go. Tally came back to her senses, her eyes fell on the battlefield. At the same time, bang, the green knife and the black knife collided again. Ka, a crisp sound attracted Sue's attention. She looked at the green diamond knife in her hand, and there was a crack on the blade. Seeing the crack, Sue's face changed drastically, damn it. Bang, the green knife shattered. The black knife swept towards Sue's face. Sue quickly blocked his hands in front of him. Bang, accompanied by a muffled sound. Su's body flew backwards, and his body hit the ground heavily, bounced 5 meters away, and then stopped. She struggled to get up, her eyes fixed on the black gem man in front of her. The black gem man was approaching the side unhurriedly. Su looked at her left hand, which was broken. She frowned and looked forward. Is Ya not back yet? Am I going to die here today? At this time, the black gem man moved, stepped on his feet, and ran quickly towards Su. Seeing the black gem man coming towards him, Su's face showed a trace of despair. Suddenly, bang! The black gem man was like being hit by a train. The whole body flew out like a cannonball. Boom! The body of the black gem man hit a boulder, directly knocking a hole in the boulder, and the snow on the boulder fell directly down, burying the black gem man. Su was stunned. She looked at the place where the black gem flew out in disbelief, and then she looked at the person who came. She saw a girl standing in front of her. This girl had a pair of fox ears made of black gems. In addition to the fox ears, her hair, clothes, and long tail were all made of black gems. Seeing this girl, Su was stunned. What is this guy? I am immortal and I raise a divine beast in another world. Author, Chen Wunian. Chapter 295. A pair of black gemstones made of twin ponytails. The ponytails are a bit long, exaggeratedly long to the waist before stopping. She wore a shoulder-bearing dress made of black gemstones and a pair of black gemstone boots. The black gemstones all over her body reflected colorful halos under the sunlight. Seeing this girl who suddenly appeared, Su was a little confused. Chen Hao was also a little confused. Chen Hao thought that Tali would use mental destruction to attack. After all, the gemstones Chen Hao gave Tali were all mental, not physical. Who knew that Tali actually rushed out and kicked? Chen Hao touched his chin and thought for a while. Although I didn't give Tali a gemstone for physical destruction, her physical destructive power is quite high. By the way, I almost forgot that I gave Tali 3 second level gemstones, and she got the attributes of the 3 second level gemstones. Those basic attributes were integrated into one. Even if there is no special bonus, the destructive power is not low. At least, it is no problem to beat the second level black gem people. Are you okay? Su came back to her senses, and she turned her head to look at the source of the voice. She saw Chen Hao looking at her with a smile. Su came back to her senses, and there was a hint of doubt in her eyes. Is it you? Didn't I tell you not to come to the beach? Why are you here again? It's dangerous here, hurry up and leave. As she said, Su looked at Tali in front of her, who was walking towards the side. Su's expression became solemn. I'll deal with her, you go quickly. Huh? Chen Hao was stunned. Deal with her? Chen Hao looked at Tali. For a moment, Chen Hao understood that Su had misunderstood Tali as an enemy. Tali was covered with black gems, so it's no wonder that Su thought she was an enemy. However, Su's character is really righteous. She knew that the existence in front of her was even more powerful than the guy who had just killed her. In this case, she actually chose to use her incomplete body to cover Chen Hao's retreat, trying to give Chen Hao a chance to escape. To judge whether a person is good or bad, it is mainly based on the person's actions, not the words he says. Su was on guard against Chen Hao before, but now she still chooses to protect Chen Hao as a companion, at the cost of her life. As Tali got closer and closer, Su's expression became particularly solemn. Master Tali smiled at Chen Hao and greeted Chen Hao. I got it. Su was stunned. She subconsciously looked at Chen Hao, her eyes full of surprise. You, who are you? She subconsciously stepped back and kept a distance from Chen Hao. Chen Hao felt Su's vigilance. He smiled and said, don't worry, I am definitely not a black devil, nor will I be your enemy. You saw it just now, I am here to help. Hearing this, Su subconsciously turned back to look at the position of the black gem man buried in the snow. She retracted her gaze and looked at Chen Hao. That's true, but who knows if you have any bad intentions. This. Chen Hao smiled bitterly. You are still so vigilant against people. Su looked at Tally. Why does she have so many black gems on her body? That is the characteristic of the Black Devil. She is my servant. She used the power of the Black Gem Core, so her appearance shows this characteristic. Chen Hao looked at Su and said with a smile, don't worry, she is not a Black Devil and will not hurt you. Su was stunned, used the power of the Black Gem Core. She looked at Tally. How is your body? Chen Hao asked, are you okay? Chen Hao took a look at Su's broken limb. At Su's broken limb, you can see that the broken part is similar to the cut of the black gem, with cracks on it. There are no bones, no flesh, and no nerves. Su said lightly, I'm fine, my body has the ability to heal itself. Looking at Su's indifferent look, it means that her body will not feel pain. Chen Hao noticed that when Su said this, the green diamonds on Su's broken limb began to grow at a speed visible to the naked eye. Soon, a green arm made of green diamonds appeared in front of Chen Hao. After the green arm recovered, a layer of white skin covered the surface. The arm quickly returned to its original appearance. Su, suddenly, a voice came. Chen Hao came back to his senses and looked behind him. He saw the green diamond man named Ya that Chen Hao had seen before was running towards the side in a panic. Behind Ya, there was another acquaintance, Bai. Obviously, Bai was the helper called by Su. When Bai saw Chen Hao, her eyes were full of doubt. Su, are you okay? Ya ran to Su and looked at Su. Seeing that Su was okay, she breathed a sigh of relief and looked around. Where are the enemies? Her eyes fell on Chen Hao and saw, it's you. Chen Hao smiled, we meet again. Ya blinked and looked at Su. Didn't you take land to Black Gem Island? Why are you back now? Suddenly, a voice came. Everyone looked at Bai. Bai walked over here and she looked at Chen Hao. Bai, do you know him? Ya showed a curious look. Bai nodded slightly, I came back just to tell my elder sister about this. As he said this, Bai looked at Chen Hao with a questioning look in his eyes. Chen Hao smiled and said, Lan has returned. She is walking towards the base. She said she wanted to tell her companions that she wanted to go to my world with me. It seems that you didn't meet her. Bai was slightly startled, so fast? It takes at least 1 day and 1 night to get from Diamond Island to Black Gem. You just set out yesterday afternoon and came back now, this is too fast. Then, did you get the 2nd level gem? Chen Hao nodded slightly. Don't talk about this, let's talk about the current situation first. Su, where is the black demon? Bai was still a little puzzled. Su's eyes fell on Chen Hao, he was dealt with by his men. Bai was stunned, she looked at Chen Hao, you, men. How is this possible? The black demon is a 2nd level demon, and it is so difficult to deal with. Wow! Suddenly, a sound rang out. Hearing this sound, Chen Hao and others looked at the source of the sound, only to see that the snow pile that had just buried the black gem man suddenly moved. Seeing this, Chen Hao immediately thought of 4 words in his mind. Physical regeneration. By the way, the black gem man just now also has the ability of physical regeneration. Wow, the black gem man stood up from the snow pile. He held a black long knife in his hand, staring at this side, and as soon as he stood up, he rushed towards this side again. Xiaoying moved his body and stood in front of the black gem man. She clenched her hands in front of her, and an exaggerated giant sickle appeared in her hand. She swung the sickle. The black blade flashed by. The black gem man's body was split into 2. Bang bang bang. The body of the black gem man, which was split into 2 halves, fell to the ground. Ya's eyes widened. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I am immortal and I raise a divine beast in another world. Author, Chen Wunian. Chapter 296. Xiaoying waved his hand and the sickle in his hand disappeared. She moved her body and came to Chen Hao. She looked at Chen Hao and said, "Master, it's done." As she said that, she stretched out her hand, and there was a card in her hand, which she handed to Chen Hao. Chen Hao took it and looked at it. On this card was the gem of the second-level gem man. So strong a voice came from the side. It was Ya's voice, and Ya was looking at Xiaoying with surprise. Chen Hao put away the cards. Now that the crisis has been resolved, I think it's time for me to go back. Go back? Ya looked at Chen Hao and asked curiously, when you go back, where do you want to go back? Do you want to go back to the original world? Hearing this, Chen Hao smiled. No, I built a wooden house on the beach. I will rest there temporarily. When Lan comes back, I will take her back to my world. Having said this, Chen Hao paused and looked at Xianja. He crossed his arms across his chest and said with a smile, "Didn't you say you were interested in my world before? Do you want to go together then?" Now Chen Hao is basically sure that the characters of these diamond people are very simple. Even if they seem to be always guarding against themselves, they are still cold on the outside and hot on the inside. That guy even plans to save a stranger with his own life. As for Ya and Bai, who look very innocent at first glance, let alone them. Although such a simple little guy cannot be adopted as a beast, he can be abducted, one by one. Chen Hao is probably already familiar with this place. After that, he planned to use the precious jade in his hand to upgrade the beasts, and then let them come here to play, and by the way, he would get some 3rd and 4th level black jade for upgrading. Since we are going to let the beast masters come over, it would be even better if we could get to know a few more diamond people and let them help lead the way. Seeing that Chen Hao was about to abduct Ya, Su frowned at the side, and she looked at Ya subconsciously. Ya was startled and said, "I'm very curious, but I have to patrol the beach with Su to protect my companions." Having said this, Ya smiled, "Thank you very much for inviting me, but after thinking about it, I don't think I can go." Hearing this, Chen Hao nodded slightly, then looked at Bai. "Where's Bai?" Lan said he wanted to go. Are you interested in going? When Bai heard this, she shook her head. "I need to wait for the birth of a new companion on Diamond Island." "That's a pity." Chen Hao smiled. "Is the world you live in very interesting?" Ya suddenly said. Chen Hao was startled. He looked at Ya and saw that Ya's eyes were full of curiosity. Chen Hao said with a smile, "There are many interesting life forms there, and every one of them is very hospitable. If Ya is willing to go, they will be very welcome." "Is there a black devil?" Ya asked. Chen Hao shook his head and said with a smile, "No, it's peaceful over there. You can do what you want. Such a good place." Ya's eyes were shining with luster, and her face was full of yearning. "Ya," Su suddenly said. Ya came back to her senses and looked at Su. Su frowned. "It's time to go back." Ya groaned, then looked at Chen Hao and said with a smile, "It's time for us to go back and hand in the task. See you next time." Chen Hao smiled and nodded. Su, Ya, and Bai left together. Chen Hao watched the 3 people leave, and he showed a playful smile. "I don't feel good about walking. But it doesn't matter." Chen Hao withdrew his gaze and looked at Xiaoying and Tailai behind him. "Let's go." Ye Tully responded, with a smile on her face. Return to the cabin. Chen Hao had nothing to do, so he took out the Tianzu stick, shrank it to the size of a wooden stick, and then drew a magic circle of a 7-pointed star on the snow of the wooden house. After drawing the magic circle, Chen Hao took out 7 alien beast cards and placed them in the 7 corners of the 7-pointed star magic circle. The 7-pointed star glowed with colorful luster. A circular portal appeared in front of Chen Hao. Next, just wait for Lan to come over, and then you can go back with that." Chen Hao waved his hand, and 7 alien beast cards flew back to Chen Hao's hand. The vortex in the circular portal in front of me is still slowly rotating. The portal will not disappear just because the card is removed. Chen Hao touched his chin. "AI, if I leave the portal here, does that mean that creatures in this world can also be transported directly to the God realm through this portal?" "AI, the portals are created by you, and they can only pass through if you want them to." Upon hearing this, Chen Hao's mind flashed to the portal in the Endless Cave. The portal in the Endless Cave can only transport lives from the VAF continent. Could it be that the portal on the other side of the Endless Cave was created using a similar method, and the creator only allowed people from VAF continent to use it? "I am coming." Suddenly, a voice interrupted Chen Hao's thoughts. Chen Hao came back to his senses. He looked towards the source of the sound and saw Lan Zhen trotting towards the side happily. With a smile on her face, she smiled and said, "It's done." Hearing this, Chen Hao stretched his eyebrows, subconsciously looked at the sky, and looked at Lan. "It's not evening yet." Lan chuckled, "Let me tell my companions, it won't take too much time at all. Let's go, let's set off." Chen Hao showed a gentle smile. "Okay." Lan looked around, then, "Where should we go next?" "Huh? Haha, no, look here, there is a door here," Chen Hao explained with a smile. Lan was startled. She looked at the portal, her eyes filled with confusion. "Gate?" "Yes," Chen Hao said with a smile, "the usage is like this. Xiaoying, please demonstrate." When Xiaoying heard this, she nodded slightly, then walked to the portal. She stretched out her hand and placed it on the vortex of the portal. Suddenly, Xiaoying's body disappeared out of thin air. Seeing this, Ian's pupils condensed slightly. "Gone." She subconsciously looked around. "Where are you going?" Seeing Ian's curious and puzzled expression, Chen Hao couldn't help but reveal a helpless smile. Teleportation is not possible in this world, so naturally there is no such thing as teleportation. It was the first time Lan saw the teleported object, so it was no wonder she was surprised. Chen Hao explained, "Teleport, she was teleported home. You just need to do the same thing as her and put your hand in the colorful vortex to teleport." Hearing this, Lan quickly jumped in front of the portal, and with lightning speed, she stretched her hand into the portal. As soon as he reached in, Ian's figure disappeared. Chen Hao was stunned for a moment, then came to his senses. It's really fast. The speed of this thing was really unexpected by Chen Hao. Chen Hao looked at Tailai beside him. Tailai was staring at Chen Hao. When her eyes met, she immediately raised her fox ears, her eyes were shining, and she had a sweet smile on her face. "Master." Chen Hao smiled, "You can return to the God realm through this portal, go back." "Okay," Tailai smiled happily, "just in time, I was planning to show off my abilities to my sisters." She jumped, came to the portal, and stretched out her hand. The body disappears. Chen Hao raised his eyebrows. Tully was as lively as a rabbit. "I am immortal and I raise a divine beast in another world." Author, Chen Wunian. Chapter 297. Chen Hao walked to the portal and reached into the colorful vortex of the portal. The surrounding environment changed. Chen Hao came to his senses and found himself back in the hall of the palace. "Master," a voice sounded. Chen Hao looked at the person who spoke. It was Xiaoying. Chen Hao nodded slightly. He looked at Lan, only to see Lan looking around curiously. "I have never seen the architectural structure, so magical." She turned her body and looked around, her mouth slightly open, her expression was shocked and unbelievable. Seeing this, Chen Hao smiled. "Master." Suddenly, another voice came. Chen Hao came to his senses. He looked at the source of the voice, only to see Xiadi standing there, looking at him. Chen Hao smiled. "Xiadi. I've been away for 2 days. Is the God realm okay? Zayadi nodded slightly. There is no change in the God realm, but I have some problems in the WAF continent. Huh? Chen Hao looked at Zayadi. What's the situation? Zayadi looked at Chen Hao. War, the Northern Empire, one of the three major empires, attacked the Thunder Silver Empire, and the small empires near the Thunder Silver Empire that had been oppressed by the Thunder Silver Empire before also followed the Northern Empire to besiege the Thunder Silver Empire. War, the eternal theme of the human world, Chen Hao muttered. He looked at Zayadi. What about the God of Law and the God of Sword? Are they involved? Zayadi said, no, the Temple of the God of Law and the Temple of the God of Sword do not need any empire, and they are not involved for the time being. Speaking of this, Zayadi paused and looked at Chen Hao. Master, are we also involved? Hearing this, Chen Hao smiled. If the Sword God and the God of Law do not participate, then we will not participate either. Although Chen Hao turned to this world, he belongs to the human race, but Chen Hao does not feel any sense of participation in this world. Chen Hao's interest is just to collect and train pets, nothing more. As for human war, such an extremely complicated thing, it is better to avoid it. Hey, suddenly, a voice came. This voice sounded in Chen Hao's ears, and Chen Hao was startled. He looked around and saw Lan looking at him with a smile on his face. The four eyes met. Chen Hao blinked and said with a smile, "What's wrong?" Lan smiled, "The people here look so strange, and the materials of the buildings here are so magical. I have never seen these materials in my world." Well. Chen Hao smiled, "If you are interested, take a look. If you want to go back, the portal is over there." "Ah. I won't go back," Lan smiled and said, "I want to take a look, but this place is a little unfamiliar. How about you be my tour guide?" This. Chen Hao looked at Zayadi. Before Chen Hao could speak, Zayadi showed a gentle smile, looked at Lan, and said with a smile, "Guest." Lan looked at Zayadi, and Ian's eyes were shining. Zayadi had a gentle smile on her face. "My name is Zayadi. If the guests need a tour guide, can I let Zayadi come if the guests don't mind?" Zayadi thinks she can do it. Ian's eyes were shining, and she smiled, "Of course." Zayadi smiled gently and said, "Then let's go, I'll take you around." Yeah, Lan followed Zayadi. Lan looked at Zayadi as she walked. "Has anyone told you that you are very, very beautiful?" Zayadi was slightly stunned, and she smiled and said, "The guest is the first person to say this." Lan was stunned, "Really?" Chen Hao looked at Zayadi and Lan, who were getting farther and farther away. He retracted his sight and took out 7 exotic beast cards from the book. Transform. The figure of the human-shaped fire phoenix appeared in front of Chen Hao. It slowly opened its eyes and looked at Chen Hao, and a smile suddenly appeared on its face. "Master." As soon as the fire phoenix appeared, Chen Hao could feel a burning breath coming towards him. Chen Hao showed a gentle smile, nodded slightly, and picked up another card. Main God Stage Yinglong. Chen Hao waved his hand, and the card turned into a human-shaped Yinglong, which was exactly the appearance of Xiaobai. Chen Hao also released the other 5 cards. Fire Phoenix, Xiaobai, Dear Girl, Fei Lian, Cheng Huang, Yu Ying, Guangming Martin. In addition to Fire Phoenix, Xiaobai, and Dear Girl, only the name of Yu Ying changed among the 4 strange beasts behind. From the previous Yu Ying, it became Taiyan Yu Ying. Her appearance changed into a girl with fair skin and dark purple hair. There was a crescent mark on her forehead, and behind her, there was a silver ring hanging around. Except for Taiyan Yu Ying, the names of Fei Lian, Cheng Huang, and Guangming Martin did not change at all. Even the size of Fei Lian, Cheng Huang, and Guangming Martin did not change at all, except that they grew a little bigger. They all seemed to be very satisfied with their own appearance. "Master," after the 7 little guys appeared, they spoke one after another. Chen Hao nodded slightly. he took out 7 second-level gem cards from the book and waved his hand. 7 cards flew out. 7 little guys caught them. Fire Phoenix looked at the words on the card, second-level gem. It looked at Chen Hao in confusion. Master, what is this? Hearing this, Chen Hao smiled and said, eat it, your strength will be one step closer, surpassing the Lord God stage, and become even stronger. Fire Phoenix's eyes lit up slightly. Above the Lord God stage, you can evolve to a higher realm. Chen Hao nodded slightly. Fire Phoenix smiled, great, I never beat that damn golden mantis before, it was really a headache. Now that I evolved to a higher level, I must twist the heads of those guys off. Humph. Speaking of this, Fire Phoenix looked at Chen Hao, and said with a smile, I will bring a bunch of vein stones back to the master when the time comes. Chen Hao couldn't help but laugh. Before, Fire Phoenix was seriously injured by the golden mantis, and then it ran to the endless cave several times without believing in evil, and it became obedient. Now it knows that it can continue to become stronger, it is very happy. Chen Hao smiled and said, eat them all, after your genes evolve, I still need you to do something. Okay, Fire Phoenix smiled happily. The 7 little guys used their main god power to turn the cards into gems, and then swallowed them in one gulp. After they swallowed the gems, in order to prevent accidents, Chen Hao turned them back into cards and put them back into the book. Chen Hao took out another card from the book and handed it to Xiaoying, you eat this today. Xiaoying was slightly startled, it took it and took a look. Level 3 gem, level 3 black gem. Xiaoying silently ate the gem, then looked at Chen Hao, waiting for Chen Hao's next instruction. Chen Hao looked at Xiaoying's actions, he smiled and stretched out his hand to touch Xiaoying's little head. Xiaoying closed his eyes and felt the touch of his master, just like the rabbit form before. It is said that the way this thing absorbs is the same as absorbing magic crystals. In order to avoid accidents, I will put you back into the book first and let you out tomorrow. Hearing Chen Hao's words, Xiaoying said, Xiaoying listens to the master. Chen Hao nodded slightly. Chen Hao put Xiaoying away. After Xiaoying ate the level 3 gem, what did it evolve into? I don't know. Chen Hao waited for the next day with anticipation. And he took a comfortable bath. After the bath, it was already night. Chen Hao sat on the sofa, holding a glass of milk and tasting it. He looked at the balcony, where he could see a dark starry sky. It was night. Knock, knock. There was a knock on the door. Master, the pig's voice came. Chen Hao said, come in. The door opened, and the pig walked in from outside. It looked at Chen Hao respectfully, put its hand on its chest to salute, and then said, the goddess of the sea, Tarasa, is here. Chen Hao touched his nose when he heard it. I said before that after I found the new territory again, I would tell it, but I forgot for a while. Unexpectedly, it came to my door again. I am immortal and I raise a divine beast in another world. Author, Chen Wunian. Chapter 298. Let it in. Big Pig nodded slightly and disappeared. Chen Hao stood up, walked to the balcony, and looked at the sky above. The sky is full of stars. In addition to the stars, you can also see 3 full moons. These 3 full moons are much larger than those in VAF continent. The beast you cultivated created a world with its body. A voice came from behind. Chen Hao came back to his senses and looked back at the person standing behind him, who was Thalassa. Thalassa was looking at Chen Hao with its sapphire eyes, expressionless as always. Chen Hao smiled, this is Big Pig's personal hobby. It likes to look like the earth. Thalassa looked at Chen Hao, I doubted you before and thought that Satya might be lying, but now it seems that I was wrong. You do have the ability to create the world and the ability to create the Lord God. Maybe you really are the God of creation. Hearing this, Chen Hao blinked, creation God. Unexpectedly, when Thalassa came, he didn't blame himself for not calling it, but instead gave himself such a big title. He smiled, actually, I just raise animals. It's just that, as I kept raising them, someone suddenly called me the god of God. After I got Satya, she called me the god of creation. In fact, I was just raising some small animals. That's all. Thalassa was stunned. It looked at Chen Hao and said lightly, it's up to you. Then, I want to live in the god realm, is that okay? It looked at Chen Hao seriously. Hearing this, Chen Hao smiled, of course. In fact, I wanted to find you originally, but I forgot when I got busy. Chen Hao did not lie to him, Chen Hao indeed forgot. Thalassa nodded slightly, then turned and left. Looking at Thalassa's back, Chen Hao raised his eyebrows, he is really resolute. But fortunately, it didn't come up directly to blame myself for not calling it. Chen Hao smiled and looked away, looking at the moonlit sky. Master Big Pig's voice came again. What's wrong? The god of Dharma is here. Dharma god, Chen Hao raised his eyebrows, what is he here for? Big Pig shook his head, Master, Big Pig doesn't know. Chen Hao nodded slightly. In fact, Chen Hao didn't ask him, he was just talking to himself. Let him come in, Chen Hao said with a smile. Big Pig nodded slightly. Chen Hao walked into the bedroom from the balcony. He sat on the sofa and placed the milk glass in his hand on the table in front of him. Not long after, Dharma God walked in from outside the door. When the Dharma God saw Chen Hao, his old face showed a bit of solemnity. He raised his hand, lowered his head slightly, put his hand on his chest, bowed slightly to Chen Hao and saluted, "Please pays homage to Chuangshi Lord God." Chen Hao was startled and said with a smile, "Old sir, what are you doing?" The god of law lowered his head. Previously, Pulis was blind and did not recognize the identity of the creator god. Now that he has seen the creation power of the creator god, Pulis is sure that you are the creator god. This. Chen Hao smiled bitterly. This old man called himself the god of God when he first met him, but now he calls himself the god of creation. Chen Hao adjusted his mood, and said with a smile, "Am I not the royal god? How did I become the god of creation? I thought you were the royal god at first, but later, I found the wandering poet who sang the praises of the royal god through channels, and then I found out that he made up the legend of the royal god. Coupled with the fact that I saw your divine power today, I am sure no, you are not the god of creation in the rumors, but the true god of creation as recorded in ancient books," the god of law said seriously. Chen Hao touched the back of his head. Unexpectedly, the rumor was finally broken. However, his identity changed directly from the god of control to the god of creation. This is recorded in ancient books, not compiled by wandering poets. This probably won't be easy to change. Chen Hao said with a smile, "Okay, sir, stop talking nonsense. I'm not as old as him, so how can I be the god of creation? Sit down first, don't stand there." When the Dharma god heard this, he looked at Chen Hao. In the eyes of the Dharma god, Chen Hao was wearing a very casual bathrobe. He didn't have the slightest trace of magic energy or the slightest fluctuation of fighting energy. He looked like such an ordinary person. At this moment, Chen Hao had an elegant and easygoing smile on his face, his eyes were slightly squinted because of the smile, and he looked very easygoing. Just like a friendly normal person. But in this palace, there are 10 seraphs with demigod strength currently cleaning the palace for this ordinary person. Outside the palace, there are 10 main gods and dozens of beings close to the strength of demigods, and those main gods whose appearance is enough to make the Dharma god kneel down and kowtow will all call the ordinary person in front of him master. What is the master of the Lord God? Before, Dharma god was a little confused, but after seeing the planet under his feet with his own eyes, Dharma god was sure. The ordinary man named Chen Hao in front of him is the god of creation. It is the creator god who created everything in front of us. Only this kind of existence can allow the Lord gods to call him master. I thought that after meeting this person, I would call him little friend. Dharma god's old face was a little red, and he said awkwardly, Master Chuangshi god, please don't make fun of me, for Master Chuangshi god, your life cycle is under your control, and your age has nothing to do with it. It's nothing. Well, Chen Hao's smile froze. Can this guy figure this out? Forget it, Chen Hao shrugged. Anyway, I'm not, and you don't believe it either. Chen Hao looked at the Dharma god, smiled and said, so, what does the old gentleman plan to do when he comes here this time? When the Dharma god heard this, he raised his face and looked at Chen Hao. The demons have assembled an army and are about to attack the humans. Oh, this matter. Chen Hao looked at the Dharma god. I have heard about this matter. I also heard that various empires on the human side are at war, and it is normal for the demons to want to get involved. However, if the demons join, can't you also join the battle? With your power as a Dharma god, are you still afraid of the demons? The Dharma god smiled bitterly. I wasn't afraid at first. Huh, Chen Hao frowned. I wasn't afraid at first, but now I am. The name Satya immediately flashed through Chen Hao's mind. The god of law said, a while ago, a dark temple organization appeared on the demon side. The high priest of the temple is a six-winged fallen angel with the strength of a demigod. They are the leaders of this war. Chen Hao couldn't help but cover his face, feeling helpless. It was indeed Satya. Change. A card floated in front of Chen Hao. Main god period dark goddess. Change. The card transformed into Satya's appearance. Satya was standing in front of Chen Hao with her eyes closed. Its eyelashes moved and it slowly opened its black eyes. Its eyes reflected Chen Hao's appearance. As soon as it saw Chen Hao, its eyes lit up slightly, and a smile suddenly appeared on its face. Master, what's the matter if you call me? Just say, he. Master hasn't called me for a long time, and I'm afraid too busy. Seeing Satya looking very interested, Chen Hao stretched his eyebrows and said with a smile, during this period, did you go to the demon clan and do something? You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I am immortal and I raise a divine beast in another world. Author, Chen Wunian. Chapter 299. When Satya heard this, it smiled. Well, I had nothing to do a while ago, so I thought that Badr had set up a Temple of Light organization on the human side. I see that the organization in the Temple of Light also provides a lot of benefits to the Master, so I want to set up an organization with the demon clan to attract some believers. If the Master needs anything later, I can let them handle it. Hearing this, Chen Hao's heart moved. So that's what happened. Chen Hao looked at the god of law. The god of law was confused. The Dharma god probably didn't expect that this dark temple would be created by Satya. Chen Hao said, well, yes, the demons live in the demon continent, and the power of the light temple has indeed not penetrated into the demon continent. It is not wrong for you to build a dark temple. However, the dark temple is so big that it needs to have only a high priest can manage it. The high priest of the temple of light is a human being. What about your high priest? Oh, it's the demon king, Satya said with a smile. The demon king has always been my loyal believer, and then I let him manage it. Hearing this, Chen Hao understood. No wonder the Dharma god said that the Dark Temple planned to participate in this war. Chen Hao looked at the god of magic. How is the strength of the demon king? The Dharma god stroked his beard and said, you are on par with me. In other words, under normal circumstances, the fighting power between humans and demons is equivalent. This is the reason why humans and demons have been able to maintain peace for tens of thousands of years after the War of the Gods. Because no one can do anything to anyone. But obviously, this weak balance was broken by a small idle and boring move by Satya. If Chen Hao chooses to let it go, it won't take long for the Demon King and the six-winged fallen angels from the Dark Temple to wipe out all mankind. Chen Hao's purpose has always been to raise small animals, and he has no intention of participating in the war. As a person from another world, although Chen Hao is also a human being, he doesn't have much emotion for the humans in this world. But if human beings become extinct because of himself, this is what Chen Hao does not want to see. Thinking of this, Chen Hao looked at Satya and asked with a smile, I heard that the demons plan to take the six-winged fallen angel you created to participate in the war with humans. Do you know about this? Satya crossed her hands under her chest and said with a smile, Of course I know, the devil came over and asked me. Then, I just let him do whatever he wants. Chen Hao's smile froze. The Dharma god on the side turned pale. He looked at Satya and then at Chen Hao. The two people were asking and answering questions, and it looked like they were having an ordinary chat. But the Dharma god knows very well that every word spoken by the two people in front of him is related to the survival of all mankind. Just like Satya and the Demon King casually said whatever, the human race is likely to be exterminated. The god of law was very nervous. He knew that if Chen Hao ignored this matter, then humanity would be finished. Lord God of Creation. Dharma God swallowed and spoke cautiously. Chen Hao looked at Fa Shen and found that Fa Shen's face was pale and he looked nervous. Chen Hao's eyebrows stretched, and he smiled and said, Don't be nervous, don't worry, I will take care of it. Hearing this, the Dharma God breathed a sigh of relief. Chen Hao looked at Satya, Satya, we can remain neutral. Satya was startled and looked at Chen Hao. Chen Hao showed an elegant and easygoing smile, I said this, do you understand what I mean? Satya came back to his senses, and it showed a smile, of course, I will tell the Demon King right away to tell them not to attack humans. Hearing this, Dharma God suddenly breathed a sigh of relief. That's wrong, Chen Hao suddenly said. The god of law was startled and looked at Chen Hao. Satya also showed doubts and looked at Chen Hao, isn't it right? Satya's eyes were filled with confusion. Chen Hao looked at Satya, what I mean is that you hope that the dark temple you built can remain neutral like the light temple and not participate in the war between humans and demons. As for already existing in that world the demons who have been around for tens of thousands of years, whether they want to attack humans or not, we shouldn't interfere. The god of Dharma was stunned, Lord God of Creation, this. Satya's eyes lit up slightly, and she smiled and said, I understand. From now on, the Dark Temple will be neutral. He, Master, I will do it right now. Hearing this, Chen Hao nodded slightly. Satya's figure disappeared from the spot. Chen Hao looked at the place where Satya disappeared, then withdrew his gaze and looked at the Dharma god. But he found that the god of Dharma was looking at Chen Hao, his eyes asking inquiringly, Lord God of Creation, why is this? The demon continent, that place is very barren, isn't it? Chen Hao did not answer Dharma god's question directly, but instead asked Dharma god a question. The Dharma god was startled and said, it's barren. Well, I think so, Chen Hao said. The demon clan also called that kind of war the war of all races during the War of Gods. The demon clan was the only loser in that war. They were the ones who were defeated. Other races were expelled to the demon continent. As for the demon continent, I have been to that place, which is shrouded in black mist all year round. The land only produces desert and no food. On this continent, it's actually more like a huge prison and a cage. Chen Hao looked at the Dharma god, if I ask Satya to ask the demons to live in the demon continent forever, then it will be equivalent to asking the demons to live in the cage forever. This is a kind of favoritism. and I don't intend to use the power to intervene in the development of humans and demons. Hearing this, the god of law looked at Chen Hao. He opened his mouth to say something, but then closed it silently. He closed his eyes slightly, stroked his beard with his hand, and nodded slightly. Lord God of creation, what you said makes sense. Chen Hao was stunned. He thought that the god of law could not understand him, but he did not expect that this old man could understand him. The god of law stood up, put his hand on his chest, bowed to Chen Hao, and saluted. In any case, on behalf of all humans in the WAF continent, the god of law thanks the Lord God of creation for his help. If it were not for the Lord God of creation's words, I think it would be difficult for humans to survive this disaster. Chen Hao smiled. This matter was originally because I did not take good care of Shataya. I just made up for it. Fortunately, you reminded me. The god of law nodded slightly. Then, Lord God of creation, I will take my leave first. Okay, Chen Hao said with a smile. Big Pig. The figure of the big pig appeared in front of Chen Hao, and the big pig saluted. Master. Chen Hao said with a smile, see the god of law off. The big pig nodded slightly. The big pig took the god of law away. Chen Hao also got up and went back to the bedroom to go to bed. The god of law followed the big pig and left the god realm through the portal and returned to the WAF continent. The god of law raised his head and looked up. In the sky directly above, there was a huge full moon, which blocked the 3 full moons before. Now when you look at the sky in the WAF continent, you can only see a huge full moon, and that full moon is the god realm. The perspective of man, the perspective of God, the perspective of the god of creation. The god of law retracted his gaze. No wonder I always felt that he was incompatible with this world. Now I understand. I am immortal and I raise a divine beast in another world. Author, Chen Wunian. Chapter 300. Inside the Sword Temple. He doesn't care if the demons want to attack humans. The sword god stopped, put away the long sword in his hand, and looked at the god of law. Just after exercising, the sword god was naked from the waist up, his body was red, and he was covered in mist. The sword god threw away the long sword in his hand. The long sword flew out in a parabola and pierced the ground. The long sword pierced directly into the ground, leaving only the hilt exposed. The sword god took the towel handed by the servant, wiped the sweat on his body, and then sat on a bench nearby. Looking at the god of law, he frowned. Why don't you care? Isn't he a human being? The Dharma god stroked his beard and looked at the sword god. Perhaps, the current god of creation is indeed a human being. However, although he is a human being, the perspective in which he thinks is not a human perspective. What do you mean? Sword god narrowed his sword eyes and stared at Dharma god. The Dharma god said calmly, there are wars between various human empires now, so why doesn't your sword temple participate? The sword god was slightly startled, and he frowned. The war between empires has very complicated interests. Besides, they are all human beings. It is wrong to help whoever defeats whomever. No matter who wins or loses, it doesn't matter. Dharma god hummed, now your thoughts are the same as those of Chuang Shen. The sword god was startled, and he frowned, what are you talking about? Don't beat me around the bush, just tell me what you have to say. You are still as irritable as ever. The god of law stroked his beard. In your eyes, all human beings are equal, so you will not care about the war between humans. But you are a human being, so in front of you, the invasion of demons is intolerable. So, you don't care about the war between humans, but you have to care about the invasion of demons. What you are doing now is the same as creating a god. However, creating a god puts humans and demons on an equal footing. The current state of you and me can only allow you and me to only have human beings' vision, while the creator god's vision is the entire world. The sword god was shocked, his eyes were shining, and his brows were furrowed. Sure enough, just as you expected. The sword god looked at the Dharma god. He is really the god of creation. The Dharma god nodded slightly. The god of control cannot control the Lord God. The only one who can make the real Lord God, call him master, according to our ancient books, is the god of creation. The sword god closed his eyes and took a deep breath. It's unbelievable. It's indeed a bit unbelievable, Dharma god said. When I first saw him, I called him little friend. The sword god nodded slightly. I still wanted to accept him as my disciple. The Dharma god's hand stroking his beard paused. He squinted his eyes and looked at the sword god. You are still awesome. The sword god crossed his hands across his chest, raised his face and looked at the sky. Who would have thought that not long after, the beast he raised, the creatures he created casually out of boredom, could destroy all mankind. And his words can change the future destiny of all mankind. Yes, no one would have thought of it. The Dharma god also raised his face and looked at the sky, looking at the huge and bright full moon. At the same time, in the Warcraft forest, a bonfire was burning slowly. A skeleton sat by the campfire, its eyes glowing red, staring at the campfire in front of it. With one sword, mountains and rivers can be determined, and with one sword, the world can be leveled. If I have this sword, I can be invincible in the world. Brother, can we discuss whether we can grill the meat without my sword? As he spoke, the skeleton man looked at the sword with the hair scurrying about. The sword demon on the side said calmly, if we don't grill the meat, she will starve to death. Are you responsible? The skeleton man turned his face and looked at the campfire. Over there, a little girl was lying on the animal skin mat, her eyes closed, sleeping soundly. The skeleton looked away. I've been wanting to ask since just now, where are her parents? The sword demon picked up a piece of wood and threw it into the bonfire. The thieves were killed. I saved her. Why did you bring her back? Master asked me to learn to protect the weak. She will die in this place. Can you grill meat with your sword? Cannot. The two fell silent. For a long time. The sword demon threw another branch into the bonfire. You said just now that you are invincible, but where is the master? The skeleton man raised his hand, pointed to the divine world, and said, Master, in the sky. The sword demon was silent. The bonfire burned slowly, and the dead wood made a crackling sound as it burned. The little girl beside her was sleeping soundly. Time passed little by little. On the second day, Chen Hao opened the book, took out 8 cards from the book, and placed them on the table. Chen Hao glanced at the cards. Gene Evolution Luo Phoenix God. Gene Evolution Yinglang. Gene Evolution Fantasy Deer God. Gene Evolution Fei Lian. Gene Evolution Cheng Huang. Gene Evolution Bright Mink. Gene Evolution Taiyan Yueying. All 7 alien cards have successfully genetically evolved, but the name hasn't changed. Chen Hao stretched his eyebrows and looked at the last picture. Gene Evolution the God of Death. Chen Hao frowned. Xiaoying ate the 3rd level jade yesterday, but there is still no change today? Does it mean that there is no way to continue evolving? Or does it mean that the jade has not been absorbed yet? Let's put it out first and ask. Thinking about it, Chen Hao waved his hand. Change. A small shadow appeared in front of Chen Hao. After Xiaoying appeared, he opened his eyes and looked at Chen Hao. Master. Chen Hao sat on the sofa, leaning on the back of the sofa, looking at Xiaoying. Has Beiyu finished absorbing it? Xiaoying nodded slightly. After absorbing it, Xiaoying can feel that his strength is stronger than yesterday. Even if he encounters a 3rd level gem, I can kill him directly without cooperating with Lan. Chen Hao was startled. After absorbing it, he did not usher in another evolution, but his strength increased. Chen Hao nodded slightly. Okay, then you can move around freely first. Yes. Xiaoying walked aside. Chen Hao looked at the other 7 cards on the table. Change. The Fire Phoenix card disappears. Transformed into the form of a Fire Phoenix. As soon as the Fire Phoenix appeared, it was surrounded by red light, and Chen Hao could feel the oncoming burning sensation. The humanoid Fire Phoenix was dressed in red. It had a pair of red phoenix eyes. The corners of its mouth were slightly raised, showing a confident smile. She looked at Chen Hao and said with a smile, "Master, I think this time I can hang up the golden mantis and beat him." As he spoke, it was surrounded by fire, and its face showed excitement and excitement. Hearing this, Chen Hao stretched his eyebrows and said with a smile, "Just right, I also have a task for you." The Fire Phoenix was startled. It looked at Chen Hao, its eyes slightly brightened. "Is there a mission?" It was filled with anticipation. Chen Hao nodded slightly, crossed his hands across his chest, and said with a smile, "Go to the Endless Cave and help me collect some silver mantis cards and gold mantis cards. Don't kill them, I want to live." The Fire Phoenix's eyes lit up slightly, and the corners of its mouth raised. "Okay.